or not, Jameis Winston is not the biggest problem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And before you call me an idiot, say I don't know anything about football, please watch this entire video. Then, when you see my point and what I'm talking about, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because you're going to see my point. And here's why. So, Jameis Winston, let's just get this out of the way. Jameis Winston's 2019 stats. 3,078 passing yards, top 5 in the NFL, 19 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. Plus, you got to add in the fumbles as well. So, he's number 1 in the NFL in turnovers, completed 59.6% of his passes, and has a 47.8 QBR, which is 20th in the NFL. So, Jameis Winston, he's a turnover machine. Yes, we know that. But I think Jameis Winston is not the biggest problem for Tampa Bay. And here's why. This offensive line for Tampa Bay has not been good. It has not been good. I mean, when you look at this offensive line, this is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They're 28th in sacks per game allowed. They're allowing 3.6 sacks per game, right? So, the offensive line is not giving Jameis Winston enough time, at least the time that he needs to succeed in his offense. Now, I don't know if a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, I don't know if a lot of you guys have watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, but you don't need to watch. Go back and watch a couple of Tampa Bay Buccaneers games if you haven't, and come back to this video. I mean, it shouldn't take you that long. All you need to watch is about 1 or 2, and you will see how bad this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line is. So, plus you take into the fact that his offensive line isn't good, and you take into the fact of the offense and the offensive philosophy that Bruce Arians likes to run. Bruce Arians runs an aggressive offense. He likes to take a lot of shots deep, and he's super aggressive. Super aggressive. Back then in Arizona, when Carson Palmer was an MVP candidate a few years ago, Arizona was pushing the ball deep, had all these big passing plays. John Brown, Larry Fitzgerald, a whole bunch of other guys. So this is what comes with running a Bruce Arians offense. Super aggressive. It's going to be a lot of turnovers. That's football 101 for those of you guys that are about to say I don't know anything about football. Football 101 tells you if you have a super aggressive offense and you take a lot of shots downfield, you're going to have a lot of turnovers that comes with it. Let me give you an example. A couple years ago, from 2013 to 2018, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense was a big play offense, a very aggressive offense with Antonio Brown, Martavis Brown for a couple of years. Then you had Juju Smith-Schuster over the last couple of seasons. This Pittsburgh Steelers offense took a lot of shots deep. And what came with taking those big shots deep came with turnovers. That's the thing with Ben Roethlisberger. As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan myself, I remember this because every time Ben Roethlisberger threw an interception, it was because he was trying to force the ball to Antonio Brown or Juju Smith-Schuster or somebody deep. And I was always like, gosh, Big Ben, why'd you throw that pass? So, I mean, turnovers are going to come in this Bruce Arians style offense. You cannot expect, regardless who the quarterback is, you can't expect any quarterback in this Bruce Arians offense to have less than 10 interceptions. Because most likely, whoever is the quarterback in this Bruce Arians offense, they're going to have a lot of interceptions. More seasons than not. Then, plus you take into the account that you got to let these deep routes down the field develop. And for these routes down the field to develop that these wide receivers are running, the offensive line has to be able to give the quarterback enough time that he can sit back there and wait for those deep vertical routes down the field that these wide receivers like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are running to sit back and develop. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, they aren't able to do that. To run an offense like this, you gotta have an elite offensive line. You have to. Because a elite offensive line at best gives the quarterback 5 seconds at best to throw. Above average offensive line gives you about 4 seconds. Average offensive line gives you about 3 seconds. And below average offensive line, like Tampa or a terrible offensive line, gives you less than 3 seconds, which isn't really a lot of time if you ever played football and you ever played quarterback at a very high level. 3 seconds is not a lot of time, especially in the NFL. So, I mean, you cannot ask Jameis Winston. You can't be surprised that Jameis Winston has a lot of turnovers when you look at the fact that the offensive line cannot give him the protection that he needs to let these deep passing routes develop. So then, of course, he's going to have a lot of turnovers. But what quarterback behind a bad offensive line does not have a lot of turnovers? Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, when he was playing behind some bad offensive lines, when New York had a lot of turnovers. You cannot name me a quarterback that's playing behind a bad offensive line that doesn't have a lot of turnovers. Other than Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. But I'm about to nip down the bud real quick because I know that's what you guys are about to type. Oh, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson play for bad offensive line. But look, Jameis Winston is not Deshaun Watson and he's not Russell Wilson. Jameis Winston, I don't know if you guys watch the NFL Combine, but Jameis Winston ran a 4.96 and a 4.98 40. That's not fast. Tampa Bay did not draft Jameis Winston to be scrambling around making all these big plays, and they need a guy who can sit back and extend plays like a Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. They should have drafted Marcus Mariota because that's not what Jameis Winston is. He's not a guy that's going to sit back and make all these guys miss because he doesn't have that kind of athleticism that a Deshaun Watson and a Russell Wilson possesses. That's not Jameis Winston. He has enough athleticism that he can pick up a couple of yards every once in a while, but he's not on the Russell Wilson and the Deshaun Watson kind of level. Plus, they can run the football. Tampa cannot run the football. Tampa Bay runs the football 35% of the time, which is 27th in the NFL. Tampa passes the ball 64% of the time, which is 6th in the NFL, and passing plays per game or attempted plays or whatever, they pass the ball 64% of the time. Over the last 3 games, they passed the ball more than anybody in the NFL over the last 3 games. Their play calling has been 70% pass plays on 70% of their play calls over the last 3 games, which is more than any team in the NFL over the last 3 games. So you have a super aggressive quarterback and a super aggressive offense, and an offense that requires you to be aggressive behind the offensive line that can't block, that can give Jameis Winston the time that he needs to sit back and let those deep passing routes down the field develop. And you have a lackluster running game. And also, you have a wide receiving core that's tied for 10th in the NFL and drops with 12. Now, out of those 12 drop passes, that also including tips, because tips are in that category as well. So out of those drop and tip passes, if you watch a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneers games, a lot of those interceptions that are on Jameis, a lot of them are not, and they are because of tip passes. So out of those 12 drop passes, I promise you, 5 of those results in interceptions that were not on Jameis Winston. If you go back and you watch that Saints game from a couple of weeks ago, O.J. Howard caught the ball. Jameis Winston put the ball right on him, and he was bobbling the ball, had the ball right behind his back, and got picked off by one of the Saints linebackers. But sadly, that resulted in an interception on Jameis Winston. And that's pretty much what happens. It's been a lot of interceptions that got picked off because of wide receivers dropping or having tip passes. So at least 5 interceptions are not on Jameis Winston, which means out of those 18 interceptions, we account the ones that weren't really his fault because the wide receivers having tipped and dropped passes. Jameis Winston so far this season has only thrown 13 interceptions. But nobody wants to say that. Everybody just wants to put the blame on Jameis Winston. Listen, I'm not saying that Jameis Winston doesn't deserve any blame. He deserves at least 40% of the blame. Bruce Arians deserves 10% of the blame. And the offensive line deserves 50% of the blame. Because you cannot expect the quarterback not to have a lot of turnovers playing in a super aggressive offense, and the offense that you already are expecting a lot of turnovers. You can't come in running a Bruce Arians offense and not expect to turn the ball over more than the league average. You can't expect that. And you definitely can't expect that behind a bad offensive line. You can't. You can't. If you have a bad offensive line, you're going to have a lot of turnovers. And now I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they have 2 wide receivers that are top 5 in the NFL in receiving yards. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good your skill position is. If you don't have a good offensive line, you're not going to win a lot of games, and your quarterback's going to have a lot of turnovers. Look at Cleveland. Baker Mayfield's top 5 in turnovers this season. He's top 5 in the NFL in interceptions. And he has the best skill position in the NFL. He has Kareem Hunt, he has Nick Chubb, he has Odell Beckham, he has Jarvis Landry. And yet, he has a lot of turnovers because the offensive line has been mediocre. So when you run a super aggressive offense that has a lot of big plays that the quarterback needs time to sit back there and let those deep passing routes develop behind the offensive line that's not allowing that to happen, you're going to have a quarterback like a Jameis Winston that's going to have a lot of turnovers. And then he's already turnover prone as it is, so then his turnover rate is going to get accelerated. So I promise you, if Jameis Winston was playing behind a legitimate offensive line, let me tell you something. If Jameis Winston was the quarterback for the Chicago Bears right now, he wouldn't be having the turnovers that he would be having. Bruce Arians deserves 10% of the blame as well, because he has to realize that this offensive line is not good and kind of lower his aggressiveness just a little bit and just try to get a little bit more dig and dump passes instead of just going all out with these big vertical passing routes and these big deep passing plays down the field. That's what Bruce Arians' offense is. It's a vertical threat offense that likes to push the ball deep, and Tampa doesn't have the talent on the offensive line to run the offense, which is why I'm putting 10% of the blame on Bruce Arians, because he has to recognize that he has to be able to make the adjustments to the offense and kind of lower the aggressiveness of the offense and play around the talent that he has around him. So the biggest problem in Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans is not Jameis Winston, is the offensive line. Listen, it doesn't matter who you put back there at quarterback. There still is nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to change, I promise you. They might have less turnovers than Jameis Winston, but the turnover problems are still going to be there, and you're still not going to win a lot of games because the offensive line is terrible. It's terrible. It doesn't matter who you put back there at quarterback, they're still going to struggle as well behind that offensive line. So this is my reason why Jameis Winston is not the biggest problem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The biggest problem is the offensive line, but everybody just wants to put all the blame on Jameis Winston. So let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content, and thanks for watching.